This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Happy to be back in the studio. Last week we were live from Belmont Park. I hope you enjoyed our live coverage both Friday and Saturday morning, cut-ins in the afternoons. We caught up with all the major players, Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown, Jason Service, owner Michael Dubb. We talked to owner Al Gold. His nice 2-year-old filly won the stake, Marianne or Ginger. We haven't talked to Al before on the show, and a slew of other people over the course of the 2 days with the 2 live morning shows and some recorded interviews, some live cut-ins from the paddock, some recorded audio pieces that were dropped in during the afternoon. So again, really hope you enjoyed our coverage live from Belmont Park on Belmont Stakes weekend with great stakes action that bodes very well for the upcoming Saratoga meet. But again, hopefully you enjoyed that. But now we're back in the studio here in the Albany, Saratoga area, with Saratoga right around the corner, and the Queen's Plate trip even coming up sooner, and the Queen's Plate at Woodbine. We want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Also the folks at the Leah Auto Group, thanks to them for their sponsorship. Leah, Cars for Life. And again, thanks to them for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events at Capital OTB. Do want to tout you on some of the promos today and tomorrow. Today, there's a Fan Appreciation Day at the Bellevue branch. We would love to see you there if you're a patron, so we can say thank you to you for your patronage. Bellevue branch on Broadway in Schenectady, noon to 5. First 50 folks to the door get a bet voucher, a giveaway item, a program. Everybody can jump in for the match bet promo and the $100 contest, food and beverage during the afternoon. That's noon to 5, the Bellevue branch on Saturday, Fan Appreciation Day. Stop on by so we can say thank you to you. Also Saturday, 3% Churchill Downs bonus. Saturday and Sunday, in fact. If you're playing Churchill with your Capital OTB bet account, and you better be because it's a great card on Saturday night, but you have the opportunity for a 3% bonus. There are some restrictions. Check it out at the website, capitalotb.com. Also, Sunday, 4 Sundays at the book, week 2 of our Trifecta Challenge format contest. We would love to see you down here to take your shot. Clubhouse Racebook, 4 Sundays at the book. We're right in the midst of it, week number 2. Again, that's Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Do want to remind you, with the great card at Churchill on Saturday night, we'll have thoroughbred racing action available on Saturday. That will include, obviously, that Churchill card that is highlighted by the Foster. There's also the Regret, the Fleur de Lis, the Wise Dan, the Matt Win for the 3-year-olds. We kick things off for an all-stakes pick 5 with that Matt Win in race 5. Keep that in mind. All-stakes pick 5. Races 5 through 9 Saturday night at Churchill Downs. But lots of great action, lots of great stakes action, betting action as well. That's all Saturday night. But you can bet it with Capital OTB Bet and watch it right here on the TV network. Thoroughbreds available Saturday night. On the sulky side, we haven't forgotten about you because Saturday night, features really one of the better cards of the year. Woodbine Mohawk, they have the $1 million North American Pepsi Challenge, and that will be, again, up at Woodbine Mohawk. So we've got both sides of the game covered on Saturday night. Thoroughbreds and harness, top quality action via Capital OTB Bet and right here on the TV network, OTB TV. A little bit later on the program, we will be talking with Jeremy Plonk because we followed him all throughout the Triple Crown season with Countdown to the Crown. So with the Triple Crown now in the rearview mirror, thought we'd kind of do a little recap and wrap up of the Triple Crown season with Jeremy. That's coming up a little bit later on. We'll take a break, but we'll come back and check in with Joe Kristufek and get some stakes thoughts as far as Churchill Downs for Saturday night. And also, Joe is kind of the head guy of a partnership he put together a while back called Brilliant Racing, and they just had a win down at Churchill. Their first win as a partnership a couple of weeks ago. So I got some reaction from Joe on that as well. That's coming up after the break. Before we go to the break, though, I do want to alert you, coming up tomorrow, we have the three-year-olds tonight with the Matt Winn down at Churchill. But tomorrow at Monmouth, the 10th race at Monmouth on Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock, the Pegasus, the return of Maximum Security. It's a fun little race. Only 6 in here. Again, Sunday at Monmouth. But Maximum Security, obviously, what's he going to do off of the win and the DQ and the Kentucky Derby? But Pletcher has Last Judgment off a dud in the Pat Day Mile. But that one had shown a little life earlier in the career. Can that one bounce back? King for a Day comes in for Pletcher off a nice win in the Sir Barton in his 3-year-old debut. He could be very interesting. Identifier goes out for George Navarro. Jason Service, not only does he have Maximum Security, he put in another one called Direct Order that comes out of a second-place finish in an optional claimer last time. Caledon looks a little bit up against it, but it's a field of 6. It's interesting. Maximum Security on a best effort lays over this field, but will we get that best effort? It'll be interesting. That's Sunday afternoon, the Pegasus, race 10 at Monmouth. And Sunday afternoon, race number 8 out at Santa Anita. They're 5:09 Pacific time, so that's 6, 7, 8 for us. But it'll be interesting to see because this is the return of Roadster and Mucho Gusto, the Affirm, on Santa Anita on Saturday night. Well, look for both the return of Roadster and Mucho Gusto. Again, it'll just play into how this 3-year-old scene is going to play out over the course of the summer. Talked a little bit about the NTRA poll in our interview with Jeremy Plonk, which we had taped on Friday, but I'll just reiterate. The final the NTRA poll goes all year long. They have a 3-year-old poll, though, that ends after the Triple Crown. So the final 3-year-old poll, Maximum Security on top. The top 5 on the NTRA poll that came out Monday as far as 3-year-olds, Maximum Security, War of Will, Tacitus, Omaha Beach, and that he hasn't been seen and is still number 4, I think is indicative of the 3-year-old picture, and Sir Winston at number 5. On the overall thoroughbred poll, as far as the NTRA poll that came out on Monday, Bricks and Mortar remains at number 1. Matoli jumps from number 3 to number 2. Midnight Bijou jumps from 4 to 3. McKinsey drops from 2 to 4. World of Trouble goes from number 6 last week to number 5. Catholic Boy goes up a spot to number 6. Gift Box moves down from 5th to 7th. He may move up again because he'll be in action on Saturday night in the Foster. Thunder Snow is 8th. Rushing Fall is 9th, moving into the top 10, and Vino Rosso is at number 10. So interesting take on the NTRA polls this week. All right, I'm going to go to a break. When we come back, again, a little bit later on, Jeremy Plonk, but coming up right after this break, it's Joe Kristufek, the paddock commentator at Churchill Downs. Stay tuned.
upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today. No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised, joined now by Joe Kristufek, the paddock commentator from Churchill Downs. A big stakes Saturday night coming up. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Yeah, I mean, on the heels of Belmont, which is obviously just a massive day, to have the Stephen Foster card at Churchill with a couple of Breeders' Cup, winning your in races kind of just gets the blood flowing for everybody nationally, and especially for us here at Churchill.
Some NBC coverage, and that's always nice as well. And I see an all-stakes pick 5 starting in race number 5 and going through the stakes races. So that's always fun, too.
Yeah, it's just a tremendous card, not only quality-wise, but depth-wise, full fields, extremely competitive races, a little bit of star power mixed in, too. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun night for sure.
You mentioned it. You mentioned the Belmont Stakes last week, and of course we had talked to you, 5 some weeks ago, 6 now, with the Kentucky Derby on the horizon at that point, and the start of the Triple Crown. Kentucky Derby, obviously, Maximum Security DQ'd. Country House moved up. Preakness, War of Will. Mark Casse gets a second classic with a different horse this past Saturday when Sir Winston won the Belmont Stakes. What were your overall impressions, Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown overall?
Well, from a selfish perspective, I had Serengeti Empress in the Oaks. I had Maximum Security in the Derby. I had War of Will in the Preakness along with Brad Cox's horse who ran third, whose name escapes me right now. Owendale.
Yeah.
And then I had Sir Winston in the Belmont. So
nice.
It was a productive Triple Crown season, but it could have been massively profitable if a couple things had gone my way. But I don't know, man. We had 3 different winners of the 3 Triple Crown races. I think the jury's still out trying to figure out who's better than who at this point. A lot of people think Tacitus might be the best 3-year-old, and he didn't win any of those races. So it's just going to make the rest of the season that much more fun moving forward. And I think everybody's curious to see what kind of racehorse Maximum Security is, because I think there's still a big question mark over it.
Yeah, I agree. The 3-year-old scene is up in the air, but I said after last week, I think it sets it up nicely for those of us up in our neighborhood. I think the Travers has the potential to be kind of a kingmaker race this summer, and so that'll be a lot of fun as well. Going back to last Saturday also, watching Belmont, anything else stand out to you? I thought Matoli looked pretty good for Steve Asmussen, but the entire Midnight Bijou looked very good as well. I thought it was a really nice card with a lot of potential horses that, again, will be fun to watch throughout the summertime.
I thought Serengeti Empress absolutely ran her eyeballs out, and she was no match for that absolute beast, Guarana. I mean, I don't know what she's going to be moving forward. If she can stay sound and healthy, she's a big, massive filly. Obviously, it's taken her some time to get to the races, but if she progresses off of what we saw on Belmont Day, I don't hesitate to say she could be an all-time great.
Yeah, that was certainly impressive in a division that was kind of crying out for somebody to take hold of it. All right, before we get to Saturday stakes races, and again, some great stakes action, we'll go through those, but I just wanted to Go back a few weeks ago, May 11th, down at Churchill Downs, race number 7 on the Churchill Downs card. As I say, a week after the Derby, give or take. Number 3, the winner here as you watch the stretch drive will be Eskin for it. 4 owners, Brilliant Racing LLC, and that's your partnership. When we've had you on, we've talked a lot about it, but this was the first win for the partnership. I texted you right after the race. You seemed very excited. Now, with a few weeks of perspective, talk about the first race, the first win for the partnership and what that meant.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were excited that we won. We were excited that we won by 8.5 lengths, but after the race, Seth, we were all just looking at each other, just thinking to ourselves, we just won by 8.5 lengths, and we're just scared that we got claimed. I mean, It took away a little bit from the win, quite honestly, because we were like, oh my God, we just won this race, for fun, and we're going to get this horse taken away from us, and he's going to make us look stupid moving forward. Plus, we love the horse. But we didn't get claimed, and then we came back, and we almost won again against starter 50 against multiple winners. If you go back and watch the replay of that race, you'll think that we won. Everybody in the building thought we won. The TV department thought we won. Gabe Sias thought we won. Steve Margolis and his team thought we won. We were standing in the winner's circle when the photo popped up, and we were in disbelief. That being said, he got a 5 on the sheet, went from an 18 to a 10 to a 5. So we couldn't be more thrilled with the position we're in moving forward, and it looks like Kenny has turned into a racehorse.
Yeah, we took a look at the stretch run of that one just now. A dirty nose, as it were. You were beaten by the favorite. You went off at 9-1, and as you say, the TV department, those guys are usually pretty good when there's a close finish and they follow one horse as opposed to another. The TV guys are usually pretty good calling those guys.
Yeah, well, they got this one wrong. So, yeah, I agree. They're usually pretty good. It only increased our confidence and only let more air out of the balloon when the photo was posted.
But at least you know now you really have a nice little horse there after the last couple of races. And going back, I never thought about that. You kind of think about that, but you drop in for a claiming price, particularly a group like yours. It's your first win. You don't want to lose the horse. So are you standing there watching the horse and seeing if that tag comes on?
I'll tell you what, after the Hawthorne race when we ran 5th and got beat 9 lengths even money and he didn't raise the gallop, if going into it you would have told me we were going to get claimed for 20, it probably wouldn't have bothered me that much. But when you win by 8 going away like he did, then obviously, yeah, you're looking around. And Steve Margolis' wife, Sue, came up to us shortly after the result went official, told us that he wasn't claimed, and we could celebrate after that. So, yeah, there's always a risk. This is horse racing. You put your horse in for a tag, I mean, you get claimed, you deserve it. So we just feel really fortunate.
And give us a little update on what's coming up for Brilliant Racing.
Yeah, Sunday, yes, it's Ginger's, and she's 4-1, and she got a nice, cozy outside post going 5 furlongs on the turf. And, if she would have gone through that hole on the inside last time, we think she could have won or at least run second. She's kicking down the stall. She's doing great, and we expect big things from her on Sunday.
And if people visit the website, and again, it's easy to find, Google Brilliant Racing LLC. The website will come right up. But if people visit and they want to learn more about the partnership, still room for new partners?
Yeah, no, we won't be doing anything again until maybe yearling season.
Okay.
If we decide to do that. Otherwise, it's 2-year-olds in training. But if you send us an email, we'll put you on the waiting list. We got 2 really nice babies. We've got one by Danza, and that's the colt, and a filly by Daredevil that we're really excited about. You can get excited, but you really don't know what you have until they get through training, go into the starting gate, and start running. So the promise is there, though.
Again, Brilliant Racing LLC. Check it out for some more info. And, yeah, put yourself on the waiting list. And you, too, may be in the winner's circle at Churchill Downs. Joe, let's take a look at the action. Let's kind of work our way back. The last stake of the night on Saturday, scheduled post time, about 20 after 10 o'clock Saturday night. It's the Regret, a Grade 3 event for 3-year-old fillies on grass. I pulled up the last race from Varenka. We're going to take a look at Belmont Park, May 11th. Varenka is going to be the number 3 horse here. Breaks her maiden in her 5th career start, but it was the seasonal debut, so who knows? Maybe she's an improved 3-year-old. That's kind of what I'm going on. I'm using her in the top spot, but I think it's an interesting race with Winter Sunset for Wayne Catalano, who could be interesting. Delta's Kingdom for Bill Mott, I think, could be interesting as well. And out on the outside, Princess Carolina is a horse I've liked throughout her career. She might have to step it up a little bit, but she comes off a nice allowance win at Keeneland. What are your thoughts on the Regret?
Yeah, you and I are on the same page in this race. I picked Varenka, but it's a wide-open race. I just like the way Graham Motion kind of took a step back, ran in the P.G. Johnson, good second last year at 13-1, then ran into Newspaper of Record when Newspaper of Record was Newspaper of Record. She's been a little bit disappointing in a couple starts this year as a 3-year-old, but she was a monster last year. Second to her in the Miss Griot, and then late closing fifth over that boggy turf course at Churchill in the Breeders' Cup, Juvenile Phillies Turf. Really professional maiden win, as you guys saw via video. I'm with you on Winter Sunset. She's out of Winter Memories. She's not the common tap, but she's actually got a pretty good head on her shoulders for a 3-year-old filly. She just needs to break. She's beaten herself in a couple of those races, but with a clean break and a pocket trip, she could be dangerous. And then Gamblin' Train, if I were to throw a long shot in there, the speed figures I don't think really indicate how well she ran last time. She was in the clear. She blitzed them 6 wide on the turn while in hand and got up for the win. I think she's a progressive sort for Buff Bradley.
10-1 on the morning line. I should also mention Hard Legacy, because owned by Saratoga's own Mary Lou Whitney and trained by Norm Cassie. Kind of interesting. Norm Cassie having some horses for Mary Lou Whitney. All right, let's go a little earlier on the card. And I said that was the last stakes race. I shouldn't have said that. I should not disrespect the Arabians, because they'll run in a little stakes race in the 10th. I think they're kind of fun, but that's one of those that for a lot of people are kind of a puzzle, but that will be the 10th race on the card, the Arabian Stakes race. But going back to what will be the highlight of the evening, the 8th race, scheduled post time about 9:45 on Saturday evening, the Stephen Foster Grade 2 event, $600,000 up for grabs. It's a 1.125 miles. Tenfold to me is interesting, and I put that one underneath at 12-1 because I thought he's kind of stepped into the handicap division last time with the win in the Pimlico Special. We'll see. He's got to validate himself on Saturday night. Tom's Day Tot certainly likes Churchill Downs. Yoshida, I wasn't sure what to do with, but I have him down at the bottom of my mix. But I think the horse that folks will gravitate towards and likely favorite, in my opinion, by post time is going to be Gift Box. We're going to take a look at the Gold Cup just a couple of weeks ago out at Santa Anita. Vina Rosso wins on the move west for Todd Pletcher, but running second is number 5, Gift Box. And I'm just looking as a buyer's guy, 3 triple-digit buyers coming into this, and I think those will kind of pop off the page of people. But what are your thoughts on the Foster?
What a fascinating race.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Gift Box at an 8-race losing streak. It took him forever to get through his 2 other than. Then he goes to California, and all of a sudden he's beating McKenzie in Battle of Midway, and barely lost in the Gold Cup last time. I'm going to fade him though, man. I just at a short price, he's got to prove it to me at Churchill. I mean, he's good in Southern California, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him win. Then you got Seeking the Soul, who loves Churchill Downs, very consistent. You got to give him lots of props for his past performances here. I agree with you on Tenfold. I think it was finally a breakthrough performance for him. Kind of been a horse that's shown glimmers of talent, but has been tough to trust. Steve Asmussen is great with these horses, giving them time to develop. A lot of them don't get good until they're 4-year-olds. Gun Runner's a really good example. I'm not saying Tenfold is Gun Runner, but at least last time he was very professional, coming from way off the pace in victory, and maybe that's his new running style. You've got Tom's Day Tot, who was second to McKenzie, gave him all he could handle. You've got Yoshida, who was a very respectable 4th in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I bombed out on this race, Seth, and my horse might run 7th, but he also might win at 30-1. I took Thirst for Life. He won over a 1-turn mile last time. If you look back at the Cornhusker, a pretty good 4th last year. He's run some great races at Churchill, 4 career wins. He's on the rail. He's going to get the right trip. Miguel Mena loves sneaking through on the rail on a turn for home. And he was visually impressive in defeating American Anthem and King Zachary last time. Again, he might be 7th, but he could win this race at 30-1 and really light up the tote board. There's a lot of good horses in here. I don't think any of them are great. think this race might be ripe for an upset. I think Thirst for Life is sitting on another big one.
Yeah, his buyer just under the triple digits last time. And you go back to his previous Churchill races, all pretty good numbers as well. And you got that 15-1 on the morning line. All right, let's go to the Fleur-de-Lis. Short field in here, but it's an interesting field, obviously, with a late off a couple of behind finishes down at Oaklawn. The Azeri ran second to Midnight Bijou, and in the Apple Blossom ran third to Midnight Bijou. So a late, I think, is going to take some action, certainly, but I put She's a Julie on top. I think the Steve Asmussen runner is just kind of coming into her own, perhaps, and that was demonstrated by the La Troyenne victory last time over the Churchill Strip, where she's 3 for 5. 2-1 on the morning line versus the favored Elate at 8-5. I'm going to be interested to see where the betting public goes. I think they will tilt towards Elate. We're going to take a look at She's a Julie winning that La Troyenne. She'll be the number 1 horse in here. Gets up by a chart margin of half a length. I could have gone either way, kind of a coin flip, but I tilted towards the Asmussen horse. Your thoughts on the Fleur-de-Lis?
Yeah, I think if She's a Julie brings her A game and Elate brings her B-plus game, then Elate still beats her. I think she's a better horse. I mean, if you look at the company lines, Midnight Bijou, last 2 races, top horse in the division right now. Abel Tasman, when Abel Tasman was good in that absolute epic battle in the personal ensign, that was a tremendous effort by both horses. And then previous to that, Forever Unbridled, fourth to her in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Elate, off of those 2 losses to Midnight Bijou, she's a little bit overdue for a victory here. She's a Julie, ran great in the La Troyenne, but she's going to spot Elate 4 pounds, and over 1.1 miles, maybe that could make the difference. I do think it's going to be one of those 2. Although Blue Prize in the La Troyenne, I think, was a little bit short. She scratched in the race that she was going to run in at Keeneland in favor of the La Troyenne. She made a bold move on the turn. She flattened out. She's a 9-furlong specialist who loves Churchill. So if you're going to stretch to 3 deep, I would not argue with you going with Blue Prize either. I think it's going to be a great race between the 3 of those.
Yeah, you make a great point about the weights. That She's a Julie carries the 124. Elate gets in 4 pounds less. That's interesting. All right, the Wise Dan, 6th race on the card. Grade 2 event for 3-year-olds and up. $250,000 as they'll go 1 mile and a 16th on the grass. I'm going to pull up the Dangers Hour, April 17th at Aqueduct. The winner will be number 8 in here, Inspector Lindley for Shug McGahee. That's the direction I tilted. No knock on Jose Lescano, who is actually on board as we're watching the win here, as I say, back in April, but picks up Jose Ortiz on Saturday night. Comes out of a 6th-place finish most recently in the Dixie at Pimlico, but I thought this race 2-back was pretty good at Aqueduct, and again, the move to Ortiz attracted a little bit of attention for me. The 9-post hung outside a little bit, and that's what made me shy away from Cullum Road. I debated about putting number 13 Cullum Road in my mix, and just from the 13 I couldn't pull the trigger there. I put It's in the Post underneath along with First Premio. But what do you see in the Wise Dan?
I mean, you and I are all over the place in this race. This is
which isn't surprising. Yeah, I think you could go all over.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got It's in the Post. He's got that California Clash. You really don't know what he's going to do. First Premio has been really good at Churchill. Hot Springs is 4 for 5 on the Churchill turf course. DM Reap just went gate to wire over a lot of these foes in the opening Versa Churchill at 35-1. Then you've got Inspector Lindley, who you mentioned, who's got a great turf resume. You've got this Chilean wild card, El Picaro, who has won from distances of 6 furlongs to 1.25 miles for Nacho Correa's very classy Chilean family. You've got Admission Office, who I actually landed on here, Seth, also coming out of the Dixie. I got a feeling this horse has a chance to be a star of the future. Catholic Boy got a perfect pressing trip in the Dixie. He had things all his own way. Admission Office, if you watch that replay, checked out of it at the start, lost 5 lengths, rallied resolutely, and almost got the jump. You talk about Jose Ortiz. He's a different maker, but so is Joel Rosario with a $ for the S in his name. And then Bourbon Resolution. He trained great over the Churchill turf course, but he's got post position number 14. Both of his game's wins came on the grass, so he's better bred for the turf than it may look. He's another one that's tough to leave out. What a fascinating race. If you get it right, you're going to get paid for sure.
Yeah, field of 14 with an also eligible number 15, so it's going to be a nice full field, nice full competitive field in the Wise Dan. Finally, we'll kick things off stakes-wise in race number 5, a little after 8 o'clock on Saturday, the Grade 3 Matt Winn. And again, in a season where the 3-year-olds at this point, halfway through the year, are kind of up in the air, somebody could step up here and with a couple of wins in the summertime could move to at least amongst the top in the class. I think there are some horses in here that have that kind of a resume already. Signal Man's the one that's interesting to me. I'm going to take one more shot. We're going to go back and look at the Kentucky Jockey Club from last fall at Churchill Downs. Signal Man will be the number 1. Now, it wasn't off track that day. Maybe he was benefited by that. So you have to take that into account. Certainly hasn't quite lived up to that so far this year, but Fountain of Youth, Bluegrass, Preakness, maybe a little bit easier company on Saturday night. So I'm going to take a little shot with Signal Man, but Nolo Contesto is interesting. Limonite, Mr. Money coming out of the win in the Pat Day Mile. Again, another fascinating race on the card. The Matt Winn, what do you think?
I'll say this about Signal Man. He should have been in the Derby because if he would have been on the also eligibles, he would have gotten in with those couple of scratches. He was training great going into the Derby. You can't hold the Bluegrass against him over that speed-biased track. So Winston finished well behind Signal Man in the Bluegrass, and he came back and won the Belmont. I don't know what happened in the Preakness. He should have run better than that. But, again, he loves Churchill Downs, so I would not be surprised if he won. Mr. Money's probably going to be the favorite off the Pat Day Mile, but that was a one-turn mile, and his races previous to that around 2 turns weren't overly inspiring to me. So I think Mr. Money's got a big shot, but not as the likely favorite. Proverb for Ron Moquette keeps getting better. That Oaklawn Park Invitational is going to turn out to be a better race than people think. Laughing Fox did not disgrace himself at all in the Preakness. And Night Ops, the horse that ran second, came back and won huge here at Churchill Downs in his next start. But all that being said, I landed on Nolo Contesto. This horse, he's been running against Roadster. He's been running against Game Winner. He's been holding his own. Haranis Racing, obviously the Eclipse Award winner from last year. Sadler brings this horse here with a purpose. They've got Gift Box in the Foster. They've got Catalina Cruiser. They had Accelerate last year. And I think they're doing a really, really good job campaigning this horse, putting him in a race where maybe he can get his confidence up. He's proven around 2 turns, and in a race where I'm kind of skeptical about some of the other horses that I know intimately, I'm going to take a horse that I don't know that well that I think might be pretty good in Nolo Contesto.
Yeah, I put that one right underneath Signal Man, so I can't disagree there at all. Joe, appreciate the visit, appreciate the thoughts. Before we let you go, I'm just curious, do you have an outfit picked out? Because I was reading the theme for Saturday night will be the Big Easy, and it's one of those evening cards, so expect a lot of fun on the Saturday night stakes card. But they said not only is the theme the Big Easy, but they're asking people to wear either purple, green, or gold. So I'm curious if you have a nice outfit picked out.
Well, let's put it this way. I spent the last 2 winters in New Orleans. So I've got some wardrobe goods that I will definitely be able to bring to the table on Saturday night.
So even more for people to look forward to tune in and see how Joe looks in the pregame and in the paddock, which we enjoy actually every day. We're sitting in here doing the handicapping show. Always like to watch you doing the pregame and certainly the pre-race commentary in the paddock. Joe, as I say, appreciate the visit. Good luck to you and everybody down at Churchill on Saturday night. More importantly, I suppose, good luck on Sunday with your Runner for Brilliant Racing.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend, and we thank everybody for supporting our product. It's been a tremendous meet at Churchill, and obviously Saturday night is just going to be massively fun. And, again, if you handicap it right and you're right a couple times during the course of the night, you're going to have a profitable evening, that's for sure, with all these competitive, wide-open fields. Looking very, very forward to it. Thanks again for having me on.
Appreciate it. Joe, we'll talk again.
All right, cheers.
Joe Kristufek, again, paddock commentator for Churchill Downs. A big, big stakes night at Churchill on Saturday. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, more Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
Where's the best place to find your favorite teams, your favorite food, daily drink specials, and wagering on live horse racing? Legends Field Sports Bar, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Get your game on day or night with 75 flat-screen TVs, tournament-style pool tables, a private banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the capital region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player? To have a better knowledge of the game? To be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Do you like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. It's in front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As I said at the top of the show, wanted to reach out to Jeremy Plonk because we had talked to Jeremy plenty leading into and through the Triple Crown season as he puts out the great Countdown to the Crown package on horseplayernow.com. So we got a little recap of the Triple Crown season of the Belmont Stakes. Unfortunately, we recorded yesterday and there was a little bit of a technical issue that cut off a portion of the beginning of the interview. So I'll just lead you into where we are. We had talked a little bit about Omaha Beach being on the sidelines, and Jeremy commented on the throat surgery, which usually is a pretty quick turnaround thing, but Omaha Beach had been on the sidelines for longer than would be expected with that situation. I tossed in Country House also on the sidelines for maybe longer than you would expect with what was described as a little bit of a cough. But it'll be interesting to see when they do come back and how they play into this three-year-old picture. But again, as we pick this up and talk to Jeremy Plonk, we had been just in the start of a discussion about Omaha Beach and Country House, both having been on the sidelines now for a little longer than would be expected with what the ailments were listed as. So up next, Jeremy Plonk.
I think horse health is a real transparency issue that we're talking about in the industry right now, and it's a big talking point on Twitter and other places based on what's going on out at Santa Anita. So for some of these minor ailments, I don't know, sometimes it's okay to admit to the lesser offense, that, look, he's sick and he's got a couple little nagging things like that, rather than going full transparency with the public. But yes, I agree. I mean, like, Country House would have been a perfect Belmont horse. I mean, 5 weeks, if it was just a cough and you just miss a couple days training, okay, now we skip the Preakness. We've got 5 weeks to get ready for the Belmont, but it was never even a consideration. It was never even a thought. And if it was just a cough, it would have been a thought. I mean, it's still one of the classics, different ownership than Tacitus, so you can say, well, Bill Mott had a Tacitus pointed for there, but completely different ownership, and the folks who won the Derby obviously probably would have liked to participate in the Belmont if they had a horse healthy to do so. Obviously they don't. So what's going to happen with those horses moving forward? Then, of course, Maximum Security, who's coming back this weekend, when he came out of the Derby, they talked about how he had some cuts and nicks and didn't train well and needed a blood work run on him and things like that for Jason Service until he finally gave the go-ahead on Thursday morning to enter for this race on Sunday, the Pegasus at Monmouth. So, he didn't necessarily come out. So if you had the two Derby winners, if you will, both come out of the race a little bit questionable, the Derby favorite in the morning line was scratched beforehand and took 6-7 weeks to come back from what is normally a 1-2 week procedure. There's no marks in this division going forward. So who knows? Maybe some of these horses from the Belmont that we say they're not world beaters, they might be the last ones still punching, though, and they may be the best horse of the summer because they're the ones still standing. Roadster could be a horse who develops back up from Bob Baffert, though. he seemed green and didn't run his race in the Derby, obviously. He's still got some upside to him, and I think Roadster could be one who develops by the end of the year.
Yeah, and he's scheduled to go Sunday out there in the Affirmed, Maximum Security Sunday in the Pegasus, in what looks like an outclassed field overall of 6. He'll face 5 others, but it'll be interesting to see what he does on the comeback. There's the 3-year-old race down at Churchill on Saturday night as well, and I think we're in one of those situations where horses, as I say, it's still up in the air, so horses can kind of get a win in some stakes races over the next few weeks and then do some damage in the summertime and move right up to, if not the top, up amongst the top runners, because it is totally up in the air. But I want to touch for a moment on the human side, because Countdown to the Crown last week, I thought it was really interesting. As I read in retrospect, you had a nice little paragraph about Bill Mott and how he might move into kind of rarefied air, so to speak, winning 2 classics with 2 different horses potentially, had Tacitus won on last Saturday, because, of course, Country House the Derby, and then Tacitus the Belmont Stakes, 2 legs of the Triple Crown with 2 different horses, and you noted not only how unusual that is overall, but for a guy like Bill Mott, who doesn't necessarily aim for the Triple Crown races. But on the flip side, it did wind up to be Mark Casse winning two Triple Crown races with 2 different horses. And he's a guy who I think has had some horses in before, but the Preakness was his first classic win. So he comes back 3 weeks later and wins his second classic. And I tossed out a little factoid last Sunday. You throw in the Canadian Triple Crown, and he's won 5 of the last 6 Triple Crown races amongst America and Canada with 4 different horses when you toss in Wonder Gadot and Nipoa.
That's pretty impressive. That's a great stat. I thought of that. I did see you post it on Twitter, and I'm glad you brought it back up, because, what a great, 12-month, 11-month run for Mark Casse with the Canadian Triple Crown last summer through now. And shame on this writer, because when I wrote the piece about Bill Mott, the sentence about Bill Mott, I hadn't even considered Sir Winston. It's like I don't know. I just, as a handicapper, I didn't give him much going into the race. I didn't use him on any of my tickets anywhere, and he outran my expectations. And again, shame on me. I should have mentioned that going in. That Casse was also in position to do the same thing. But we've seen in the past, a Todd Fletcher may pull something like that off. Wayne Lucas might do something along those lines. But you don't see these barns that just aren't Triple Crown focused. Have the depth to pull something like that off, to win Triple Crown races with 2 different horses in the same year. It reminds me back, though, you got to, if you think that's impressive, you got to remind people that the world wasn't built in the last, 2 weeks on social media. That, from 1994 to 96, D. Wayne Lucas won 6 straight Triple Crown races. 4 different horses took part in that. That is one of those record steps that I don't think, like Woody's 6 straight Belmont, is going to go down anytime soon. To win 6 straight Triple Crown races, just a phenomenal performance from, that's from Tabasco Cat winning the 94 Preakness in Belmont, all the way through Grindstone winning the 96 Derby. And then, of course, Grindstone wasn't able to compete in the 96 Preakness. Louis Couture snapped that streak, Nick Zito winning the 96 Preakness, stopping those 6 straight Triple Crown wins for Lucas. But, Lucas, Pletcher, those guys, they have a whole roster of horses that are built for the Triple Crown every year. And, if someone's going to do a stat like that and a record like that, it would have to be a barn that just has a proliferation of talent. Even Bob Backward, in all of his greatness, hasn't come close to that.
Yeah, Lucas, and as you say, the Woody Stevens record in the Belmont, a couple of fun records that seem like they have a lot of longevity ahead of them. Let me just ask you, I mentioned the NTRA poll, maximum security on top, War, Will, Tacitus, 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Luckily, I don't have to vote. I don't know who I'd put on top right now. Do you have one that you think is clearly on top, or one that you would tilt towards as putting on top right now, as far as a 3-year-old poll?
Maximum security, but because the Florida Derby, Grade 1, it was a good performance. The race came back very legitimate, with the result of the Kentucky Derby. And then, look, he won the Kentucky Derby. I mean, for what the horse knows, and for what we can evaluate. They still give speed figures to the first horse across the wire, right? I mean, and there's still margins of victory and defeat. His margin of defeat was 0 lengths, I mean, that's the fact, and he's never had a horse in front of him at the finish line. I understand the disqualification, a month or so later. I get it. I mean, that's fine. You can debate whether or not it should happen. You could debate, the debate in the Belmont Stakes of, what Sir Winston and Rosario did in tilting out, what that may have caused or didn't cause, because the horse he interfered with was War of Will, his own stablemate. Of course, Cassie's not going to claim foul against his own horse. So we can talk about, the disqualifications and things like that of how they impact what the official result would be. But if you're just looking on paper, there hasn't been a horse capable of beating Maximum Security yet. But, look, I don't like the way Jason Service talked after the Triple Crown about, how he didn't come out of it that good, and he's really hemming and hawing on whether he runs, this weekend in the Pegasus. So we've got to see him run and progress and keep moving forward. He was in for 16,000 in his career debut for a reason, and he's not a regally bred horse. And obviously there's probably some physical issues with him that go along with that, with that lack of respect for him his first time out of the box. And so you don't expect Maximum Security to be the kind of horse at age 5 to still be running in the handicap division. You just don't, especially in this day and age. But, given the makeup and things like that, durability is probably going to be a question with him. We know he's brilliant. We've seen that. But can he be durable enough to run out this campaign and get a Haskell win or a Travers win, that sort of thing? We'll have to see with that. But right now, I'd have to put him on top, because who else are you going to take?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just not another really good option. And for Omaha Beach to be like 3 or 4 in polls and not running any of the Triple Crown races, I mean, that, his competition didn't really come back that strong. We didn't see the Baffert horses perform that he beat. Game Winner and Improbable didn't run huge races in the Triple Crown series. So, Omaha Beach is kind of going on reputation and the fact that he didn't get beat. So sometimes just being in the clubhouse is the best thing that can happen to your reputation.
The fun thing is, everybody wants a Triple Crown winner, and they're always the mainstream media, and the general public can leap on board those. But I will say, as a racing fan, I think the 3-year-old scene is shaping up to be very exciting this summer.
It is, and from the human aspect, I really like the people that we saw this year. Mark Cassie's as good as it gets. When you talk good people in racing, Bill Mott has a ton of respect. I mean, he's not as affable and likable as you would say as a Mark Cassie. He's just more quiet and icy, Bill Mott, but just a ton of respect for his process and his career. So to see a guy like that win a Derby, everybody, I think, feels good about that. And Mark Cassie, and then the jocks. When you look at Tyler Gaffleone and then Joel, of course, winning with Sir Winston, we've seen him at the highest levels. But Flavian Pratt getting a Kentucky Derby win, Tyler Gaffleone getting a Preakness. For those two jocks, they're young, up and coming. We need that in the game, because outside of the Ortiz brothers, there's not a lot of young jockeys making waves in this game. We're still relying on Mike Smith and John Velasquez and Javier Castellano and people like that to carry the torch for the game. They're not going to be able to do it forever. So we know Pratt's one of the top, if not the top rider in Southern California, of course, in the meets he has been. Now that he has a Derby win, does that change his profile nationally? And Tyler has long been the top rider in South Florida year-round. When he gets to the big championship meet, now that he's a Classic winner, will that increase his profile next winter when he takes on the big boys back in Florida? So I think from a human standpoint, this was a very rewarding Triple Crown. From an equine standpoint, we had a lot of question marks.
Yeah, well said, and it's going to, as I say, we'll maybe get some of those answers as the summer progresses. Jeremy, before I let you go, I just wanted to go back, I alluded to it earlier, I talked about it on the Sunday show. I thought the results over the weekend at Belmont bode well for Saratoga and just horse racing in general. I thought a lot of horses we were excited to see kind of validated themselves. Saturday, as we talk about 3-year-olds, interestingly enough, I think the two maybe most questionable races on the Saturday card down at Belmont were the 2 3-year-old races, Majid and Hog Creek Hustle. I don't know what they'll turn out to be as the year progresses. We'll see. But certainly some of the other stakes, Matoli, I thought was very impressive. Midnight Bijou, World of Trouble, Guarana, I think could turn out to be a nice 3-year-old filly in a division that's kind of crying out for such bricks and mortar. Look good. What were your thoughts overall on the weekend action at Belmont?
Tough to make about because a lot of short price horses that we wanted to see race, but the depth of the field maybe not enough to get the kind of prices that you want. A lot of short price winners and exactas throughout the weekend, but you loved seeing it. I mean, it was great viewing, and and it's a great setup for the rest of the year. Again, it might have made it tough sledding individual wagering throughout the course of the day on Saturday, but I think, like you said, this sets us up great for Saratoga, where we should get a little more depth maybe in some of these races. Midnight Beast, she ran against the lone speed horse and beat Come Dancing on her home track. I thought that was a really impressive performance. It just solidifies Midnight Beast as the top distaff horse in the country. The two Chad Brown 3-year-olds were from Keeneland. I fancy myself as a Keeneland guy. I follow every single race there for the last 10, 12 years professionally for Keeneland and working those tracks. I was cold on Guarana and hot on Honest Mischief, and they ran the complete opposite races. Guarana ran through the screen, and Honest Mischief was a huge disappointment. I think Honest Mischief is still a horse for the Jerkins, the Grade 1 sprint, the former King's Bishop up at Saratoga. I still think he's got a ton of talent. I don't know what went wrong in that race on Saturday, but I think he's got a big future, the son of Honest Lady. Guarana, that's a lesson, and you got to be careful evaluating maiden races, because I went back, pulled up the past performances of every single horse in that race Guarana ran against at Keeneland. 7 of them had come back to race. All 7 got beat. Most of them ran out of the money. A couple got beat in Ohio in off-Broadway circuits. A couple got beat in maiden claiming races, and the race was in the slop. So I was pretty much bullish. I'm going to make Guarana beat me at a short price, and she just ran off the TV screen. So you got to watch maiden races, because when people put a horse in a maiden special, they could be a future 5 claimer, or they could be a future Grade 3 winner. It's probably the biggest disparity in all of horse racing from top class to bottom class, because we don't know who these horses are yet, and maiden specials can be a tricky evaluation, and I certainly got a big lesson in that over the weekend.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you talk about short prices, and I completely agree, but the one bet that I thought paid well, and I was really interested to see how it was going to play, was that 20-cent pick 6 that went from a couple of stakes on Friday to the 4 stakes on Saturday. And for 50 cents, they weren't crazy, again, alluding to what happened over the weekend. But for 20 cents, they got $650,000 in the pool, which is phenomenal. Again, you relate that to a $2 pick 6, that would have been $6.5 million. But for the 26, for the 20 cents, that kind of money was very good. Paid $9,500 for 20 cents.
Yeah, it did. And I talked a little bit with Steve Vick on his show earlier this week about that. And a lot of it is the power of the last race. If there's a potential single in the last race of a multi-race bet, those horses tend to get way over-singled, because the general public and even seasoned bettors have a tendency to want to be alive going into that last leg. I think This was a 9-5 shot on the tote board, who was probably bet in that 20-cent pick 6 like a 4-5 shot, where a lot of people just said, get me the last leg and I'll get cash for this home and we'll cash this. Because the other races are so competitive and tough, we'll use multiple horses here and there, because there's not a lot of explanation other than Hog Creek Hustle. Unless Hog Creek Hustle played like a 90-1 shot in that sequence. But that was a tough race. I think you went into that Woody Stevens thinking, okay, I got to use quite a few in here. So you would think maybe a lot of people got the Hog Creek Hustle with its 20-cent minimum, but obviously not that many did. And I do think that Sir Winston played a lot bigger than a 10-1 co-fourth choice in terms of that 20-cent pick 6. You get and like I told Steve in his show, and I'll tell your listeners, is if you're handicapping for the day and you say, do I like the early pick 4, do I like the late pick 4, which one do I want to put more money into? Look at the favorite in the last race of the sequence. If you think they're beatable, that's the sequence you want to play, because a lot of people are just going to default to the favorites in the last race, and that'll get you a better payoff. If you don't like the favorite in the last race of a pick 4 or a pick 5, that's a day when you want to play.
That's interesting. And, that 9,500. And up in the press box, we had gotten a few people together, and Hog Creek Hustle was the one that knocked us out. It was a little bit disappointing there. But as I said, Hog Creek Hustle, I liked the horse earlier in the year. So that horse was playable. So I thought the whole sequence was horses you could have had, 9,500. And I'll be interested to see what this bodes going forward for the 20-cent at Nairide. I'm curious if they do something up at Saratoga for that. It'll be very interesting, because it was unique Belmont Stakes weekend. They did it 20 cents. It was a non-jackpot. It had to pay on Saturday. I don't know how that kind of a situation would play over the long term. But again, it was kind of fun over the weekend.
You'll see it at the Breeders' Cup, I bet.
Oh, well, that's a great point. And that would be a great spot for a very similar type of thing. Jeremy, as always, appreciate the visit. Again, always tell people to swing by horseplayernow.com to check out all the info. We talked about it earlier. Go to the archive for night school, and things will kick in a new midsummer as far as that is concerned. We appreciate the conversation, the recap, given that we followed down to the ground season. We'll talk again.
All right, Carol, good luck.
You're telling me. Jimmy, appreciate it. Jimmy Plonk, down to the night school and horseplayernow.com, amongst many, many more things. We will come back in just a few. Welcome back. Let me just wrap up this edition of Racing Across America for Saturday morning. Do want to remind you, Thoroughbred Racing tonight. That will feature that great Churchill card that we talked with Joe Kristufek about. So make sure you stay tuned. I'll be in with an evening edition of OTB Live, taking a look at some of those stakes. Excuse me. Should be a lot of fun. Tune in for that. On the sulky side, we have the Woodbine Mohawk Pepsi North American Cup worth $1 million. So great racing regardless of what you're a fan of tonight here on Capital OTB TV. So again, tune in for that. Do also want to remind you, Fan Appreciation Day at the Bellevue branch today. That happens between noon and 5. Swing by Broadway and Schenectady so we can say thank you to you. Bellevue branch today between noon and 5. Today also continues 3% Churchill Downs bonus. Today and tomorrow, get an extra 3% with your Capital OTB bets on Churchill Racing. Some restrictions apply. Check out the website for more information, capitalotb.com. And Sunday, 4 Sundays at the Book continues. It's a trifecta challenge format. Come on down to the Clubhouse Racebook and jump in. 4 Sundays at the Book. This is week 2, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Again, tomorrow, Sunday afternoon. Want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. And the Leah Auto Group. Leah, cars for life. Thanks again to them for their sponsorship. All right, I'll be back in a while. We're going to have kind of an afternoon edition floating in the evening and nighttime of OTB Live today. Extra coverage with the great card tonight at Churchill Downs. So I want you to stay tuned for all of that. Hopefully we give out some advice. We can all make some money this afternoon. So thanks for tuning in this morning. We'll see you then.
You're watching Capital OTB TV. Wager at CapitalOTBBet.com for the most comprehensive wagering site and the best player rewards in New York State.